Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
Welcome home, y'all, to part 2 of Native Land Pod. And listen, I have heard a lot of you all say, I am resting, we are resting, and certainly you deserve that. But are we at the point where it's enough and it's time to get back to work? Well, nobody better to have that discussion with young people who have all the energy. So we're going to pick up where we left off in the previous episode of Native Land Pod and get into what are these young folks doing, but more importantly, what do they need from us to empower them? So let's kick off this conversation right now. I appreciate all your points, all of you guys. And I think it's healthy for us to hear, the healthy exchange of ideas and ideology. Ty, you talked about, it doesn't take, everybody. I wonder, this is really for all of you all, but I'll start with Ty. I wonder, do you feel like you're reaching people? Do you feel like, okay, well, if it's 1 out of 100 that's organizing, out of that 100 people, do you feel like you're tapping into somebody? That's the first question. The second question is, we do tend to talk about civic engagement and activism, and sometimes these things are talked about only through the lens of voting, which is what I was trying to ask earlier to you, Marley. Like, maybe people are out here doing all kind of community work, but they did not choose to vote, which doesn't take away what they were doing in community. Some people feel like, yeah, I'm out here cleaning my community. I'm out here organizing the same way, but I'm not necessarily, interested in upholding the white man's democracy. Maybe my interest is somewhere else. I'm curious on where you all stand on all that. And Ty, I'm starting with you.
So I guess I'll answer that last question first. Why some folks are involved in civic engagement outside of the electoral framework. And let's look at the Hillary Clinton election, right? Roughly 63 million votes for her, roughly 60 million for Donald Trump, roughly a little over 100 million who decided to stay home because they were disconnected from the systems that told them to go vote. When you talk about, the pandemic, the stimulus check that a lot of folks received, that represented the most direct interaction that folks have had with Washington around the country for a lot of folks. The first time where they say, I can actually see what was reflected in Washington back here. But up until that point, they had realized what we often emphasize as organizers is that it starts at home and you build your concentric circle out from there. You're building your community. You're going to your PTA meetings. You're making sure your neighborhood is clean. If you have, a housing council, you're being involved in the things that are closest to you, because at the end of the day, that is the best place to insulate yourself from the trickle down effect of even this fascist regime, right? Is affecting sensible leadership to make sure that you're insulated locally, and then starting to be more aspirational and caring about national things, caring about foreign policy. But I think the immediacy of care has always lied with trying to take care of the home front. And so that's a lot of what we're seeing there with the disconnect from electoral systems as opposed to civic engagement outside of that. The other thing that you asked was about, do I feel like I'm reaching people when I reach one person? And I would say yes. Because that one person could be the next me or something better than me. Somebody that could collaborate with me. Somebody that can then go and get one person. Like, I think that we have to be realistic in the fact that it's not everybody's thing. Like I said, I know that folks from back in the day that lived during a certain era where there were black and white photos like to cosplay like they were also the Malcolm X's and Martin Luther Kings. But like, age doesn't make you that. Back in that generation, there were folks that were drinking their liquor. There were folks that were smoking their weed. There were folks that were doing any and everything until they got that thing that activated them to care. They said, you know what? Hey, you should have some attachment here. And it's because somebody brought it to them in their language and said, you know what? This is what you can do to integrate into movement. So I think that I feel effective when I reach one person, especially if I reach them outside of the typical framework. Like, you see, I did the Obama tan suit thing for y'all today, but like, I need the hoodie.
For shame.
I need Brody in the hoodie. I need Brody with the skull cap, because he's going to go and talk to folks and have different conversations with people that I won't meet. But if I can get him to meet me, to respect me, and to take this information and download it and pass it on, then me meeting that one person right there might have been more effective than me meeting 100 people that day, because he can go back and have that rapport in his hood to be able to walk down and talk some high-level intellectual shit to folks who otherwise didn't care, right? And so being able to get that one person in these respective rooms, whether it is over there, whether it is in the queer community, whether it is in the faith community, I think it's important that we try to build that one. in each of these communities. Because if we can get that one to act as an ambassador for ideas, to act as an ambassador for this good fight, then we're going to raise the army for it.
For sure. I think you're spot on, Ty. And I think, we reach people by recognizing that the road to the revolution isn't linear, right? Like during the civil rights movement, there were young people who weren't always on the front lines and didn't always have the bullhorn and the mic, but best believe they were recording and writing and documenting and archiving. I mean, there were artists whose music was their fight. The musicians whose instruments was their fight. There were some who were making calls, spreading awareness, which is now our version of social media, right? So we have to be okay with understanding that our gifts are different, our passions are different, but that doesn't make it any less effective when fighting white supremacy, because it is quite literally rooted in everything we do. Like some folks are migrating back to the South and reclaiming land and starting farms. Y'all, like shout out Bria Baker, read her book Rooted. But you can't tell me that that's not a form of resistance, right?
For sure.
We each have our role to play. We have to accept that it looks different, So we reach people by acknowledging that all skills are welcome. We reach people by acknowledging that all of your talents are welcome, that, the folks who are the support team who bring the milk and water for tear gas to protest, that you are important. We're the comms team that makes the graphics. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a place in this movement, and so not every young person is going to say, if we don't get it, shut it down, which is my favorite, but some people are saying, well, if we don't get it, how do we create it for ourselves? And that method of fighting back looks different than what we're used to seeing, and which is why it's so jarring, and which is why it feels like young people are too zen and too relaxed for this movement. But I don't think it makes it any less effective. I think Black joy in and of itself is resistance, and we can't just say that and then get upset when we practice it.
I love everything you guys are saying. And I have to tell you, it kind of puts me in the mind space. My friends and I joke a lot where we talk about music. And because this has always been the case, James Baldwin had some challenges with how Martin Luther King was moving, and I remember listening to music that, my uncles and my parents, they were like, oh, girl, that ain't no music. This real music. Put on the Temptations, this real music. And so we joke that young people someday will be, what y'all listening to, man? Migos, some real music. And it's just the way generations go, So, and I want to be clear. I don't think any of us, are saying wagging our fingers to young folks. But I do think that there are a lot of people who are disenfranchised. I can't remember who said something about hope. Maybe it was Marley. But hope. Yes, I'm going to just tell you, I feel hopeless. Somebody in the comments I'm tired of Tiffany feeling so doom and gloom. I'm like, yeah, I hear y'all, because I'm tired of feeling doom and gloom. But hearing you all talk, it does give me hope that you're out there doing something, and that you all seem to have hope, because I'm telling you, I don't hear that from a lot of young folks, and I don't have the words to speak into them to say, well, you should feel hopeful. I just have the words to say, please fight. Please at least get in the fight, because what we're seeing right now is just so frightening. So I wanted to say thank you to you guys for being so passionate. And I think what I love most is your authenticity. Ty, I don't know where you are. I feel like you from the South somewhere.
I'm from DC, born and raised.
And
I'm gonna find you, Ty.
If we can, I was just gonna say, one thing that I think is important. There were a number of you, or all three of you, brought up at some point mentorship, or the disconnect between one generation to the next. Victoria, you said if you pass the baton, that means you got to let go of the other end. All of which I think are very powerful. I think my point of privilege is I have a ton of mentors. I say it takes a village to raise a child. That's the one we know. But I say it takes a village to sustain an adult. And I really believe that. But I'm challenged by what you all are sharing around mentorship. And I really want to hear about how my generation can do better by Gen Z. What are the things that you guys feel like can be done, I think, to inspire folks that need to be hopeful about even getting support from us? Like maybe you're like, we don't want to apply the same tactics, but we do want to learn from the mistakes you made. I'm spending a lot of time right now with folks who are a part of organizing Gary, Indiana in 72 and attended. I want to learn what they got right. What did they get wrong? So Marley, I'll start with you, because your publicist is saying you do actually have to go. So I'm going to start with you, and then we'll go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really appreciate asking like the literal ways. I feel like that's the first step is always just grounding it back to reality is when you notice you're doing something wrong, like let's get the actual steps. When it comes to mentorship, I think there's two things that I really like is one, when I'm able to find a mentor who isn't just focused on kind of wellness, like not wealth or wellness as a way out, like neither wealth nor wellness, that it's a combination of both, that in order to be well, to be healthy, you kind of have to, you will be able to gain capital. So finding people and being the person that says like, you're not just going to make it out of getting $1 million or making your first whatever or buying your first house. You're not going to make it out that way, but really it's actually going to be about taking care of you. So mentors that focus on the connection, both between like what your bank account looks like and what your transcript looks like and what's going on in your head. So making sure that this mental health conversation, which we know has always been difficult within the Black community and difficult in all immigrant and Indigenous communities, is just having these hard talks, is being a person that leads with mental health as a huge part of justice work. Where like Tiff was saying, this feeling of hopelessness, you can feel hopeless together, and seeing that across different generations, we can talk about, George Floyd and Trayvon Martin, but there's also stories of the LA riots. Like there are so many other examples that we have not lived through of police brutality, of violence against women and girls, of school shootings, that these problems come back around and back around. So the second thing being helping to make those ties and helping with those historical connections, because we often as Gen Z say like, we've experienced the pandemic and we experienced all these things, but you guys did too. And I think learning about the ways that you all have mitigated those moments and just talking in as transparent of a way as possible about like from the real mental to the physical to the economic to the academic ways that you get out of hard times is what young people need to hear, because I think we're all just adjusting to adulting and realizing that, like this is an internal game of like, how much am I going to let white supremacy and capitalism get into my head every day? And the ways that you rewired that during political unrest, even if you didn't know what you were doing, hearing about it, I think is so helpful, because you don't realize how much of this game is mental and about a belief in oneself and an honoring of the daily discipline of working towards a better future for Black people. That when we take care of ourselves, we actively keep ourselves alive, we build another day for a better future. And I think mentors we can help each other and inform each other so much in that. It's a really beautiful reciprocal way to help.
That's good, Marley. I do want to just reiterate, our space is always open. Nobody is ever silenced here, even in pushback. We don't have to agree on everything. We fight every week, but certainly no voices are silenced here. So we welcome you back anytime. Thank you so much for coming.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
See you later.
Pleasure to be here with you.
There was a point that we've been wrestling with quite a bit. Andrew and Tiff, y'all have seen this too. I wonder what you all think about this, Ty and Victoria, about rest, like the narrative of rest at a time where there's so much going on. Certainly not encouraging people to never sleep and to stay woke to the point of your detriment. But there is this interesting narrative that's permeating. I got conspiracy theories about it, where we're telling people to rest and almost not protect ourselves. And I think that's dangerous, particularly for the Black community. I'm curious to know what you all are seeing and hearing from your generation about that narrative.
I'll hop in real quick, because I think that, like, we're living in this era where we got a generation of folks romanticizing living in their soft era, right? And so there's all of this stuff that we do to kind of throw ourselves in a lull. And I think some of that sort of just cultural kind of conversation is bleeding over into this social justice conversation, right? Where like this soft life is being blended in with like, well, rest is resistance, and we're getting some of the same talking points. And like, I think, because Victoria made this point earlier, there is definitely validity to needing to rest. I mean, a soldier that goes to battle needs to be well fed, well slept, right? So like there are things that you need to do to condition yourself for a long battle. And part of that is rest. Part of that is sustaining rest. I do think, however, though, that like, because we have done this weird blend of, like I said, that rest that is necessary in this soft life, we have a lot of folks feeling like they think their contribution to our social justice fight will solely be rest. And it's like, no, you rest after you do some shit, or you rest before you're doing something. But resting will never be the sole action that you're doing to save our people. And I don't want people to like, because I do, Angela, I do believe, to your point, that there's a lot of people, it's seductive to believe that all you would have to do to save our people is just rest. Like, I mean, who's not going to pick that position? I choose the couch. If that's all that we have to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, anybody would just say, okay, well, that's how I'm going to show up to it. I think it's important to remind people that rest is part of resistance, but it is not the entire picture of resistance. It is part of sustaining resistance, but that in and of itself, if the entirety of Black people is resting, who is at action in working for our interests? Who is fighting that fight that we will need to fight to sustain through the 21st century? So I think it's important to balance that conversation out that yes, we must rest, but rest on par with the work that you're putting in to deserve that rest, to warrant that rest. That's it. Because I come from a family of workers. My dad comes from a small town in Virginia, Chase City. One stoplight, if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it. But he grew up on a farm where they raise their animals. So that concept of resting, or that concept of resting from my aunt who was born in Mecklenburg County, who had to get up early to walk while white kids were being bused to school, she couldn't afford that rest. My mother just became American in 2000. And all of what it took for her to become a citizen, learning things that even some of our lawmakers don't know about governance here in America. She couldn't rest. So the idea that rest alone will do it, we got to get a little bit more realistic, and we got to get over this concept that says that all we're going to do is sit back and somehow the world will get better for us.
Powerful.
Victoria, you have thoughts on that?
I do. I think, well, I agree with what you said, Ty. I think young folks are, and not even just young folks, I think people in general in this movement are prioritizing self-care, which I am a firm believer, I think it's the key to longevity in this movement. Like, how do you fight for your people if you're not taking care of yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all the things, right? And so I don't think, this movement is disappearing. I think it's evolving. I think rest and protection is important. I think we're creating spaces in events, during events and during protests for moments of health and wellness. I also think that we have to acknowledge, like you said, Ty, that rest and action go hand in hand. Like doing nothing, absolutely nothing is never the answer, but taking care of yourself after showing up is important. Burnout is a real thing, y'all. Yeah. And I'm sure all of you know, burnout is a real thing. Even, for myself, personal experience, after organizing folks to vote in October, literally every single day in, day out, walking up to people, having conversations on foot, y'all. Like I had to take a week after to just breathe and cry and just exist and rest and recover, because this work is heavy. I mean, when you're talking to a mom who just buried her son, or you're helping that mom pick out an outfit for their son in a casket, like that weighs on you. You go to sleep thinking about that at night. I do a lot of work in human trafficking prevention, and after reading cases of babies being human trafficked, after seeing that and then doing rescue work, like that stuff stays with you because we're human, right? We have emotions. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that when you're doing the work, rest is also important, because that weighs heavy on you, and you cannot be effective in helping someone else if you're not showing up for yourself.
It's real. That's real.
I just want to say, I appreciate the story you told, Ty, about the White House having B2K singers there in lieu of Black activists, and basically all of you young people giving your own testimony. I will say, in the organizing spaces that I have been in, there has been intention, and I'll say this is to Angela. When we're looking at the table to see who is not there, I do feel like Angela's one of the people that say, well, we don't have any young people here. We don't have Gen Z people here. So those conversations do happen. And I think, because to Andrew's point, like, we're not so far removed. Like, it does feel very strange to be the elder.
Right? That's what we tell you. Wait, meanwhile, Tiff just said B2K and he said K-pop.
B2K nap? Did you say nap time? Did I hear you say, where's my pill today?
Baby.
Oh my God. You know what else I do?
We about to get AARP cards any moment.
Listen, you know what else I do? I keep saying Simply Red and not Sexy Red. I'm trying to tell you, it happened. I mean, listen, young people, like Andrew told us, we keep living. It happens so quickly. Like, all of a sudden, you look up and it's like,
not gonna do it. Not now.
I'm closer to 50 than I am to 30, and it's just such a strange thing.
It's so weird.
Yes. Because I feel like, oh no, we're all peers sitting here talking, you know? And I feel when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I see like a 28-year-old until my ass talks to an actual 28-year-old. And then I know that is not like, no, ma'am, you are on the other side of that. But I just wanted to let you all know, I appreciate the pushback, the feedback, and the instruction, quite frankly, on mentorship and not having a seat at the table. Because we have that, you know, Angela, you may disagree with me, but I do think it's a challenge. Well, I don't know if you disagree with this or not, but I would say I do think it's a challenge that our members, including the Congressional Black Caucus, will die in their seats, that we are not teeing up a generation behind them. And some of our elders in the movement, you know, it is like it's a tug of war instead of a baton pass. And so I do hear that, because we've had those complaints in our days. And sometimes we may still have those complaints because there's still a generation above us. So at minimum, I'm happy that we're having this exchange of ideas and ideology. And like Angela said, this is a space that is open. It's a conversation. If I say something you don't agree with, I want to hear. That only makes me a smarter person, a more aware person. So this is really a lot about listening for us. And that's why we've had more questions than we did comments this episode. So I really appreciate you guys participating.
I do want to say too to that. Sorry, Victor. This is one thing just for you to consider in your remarks. It is we're now the sandwich generation, right? Some of us have kids that we're taking care of, and we have elders that we're taking care of. And I think I'm much more sensitive to how our elders are treated in our community. I think most of us hold them in high regard, but I think writ large, when I look at Asian cultures, they hold their elders in a little bit more high regard. And I think that it's important as we talk about this, that we figure out where the gaps might be, because they're not intentional, they're blind spots. And I think there's a distinction. So as you all get ready to offer your closing, and Andrew, somebody that started something for young elected officials, a Young Elected Officials Network, has been leading since before FAMU SGA, but high school student body president. He knows a little bit about this world, world and pathway too. And I think he's someone that you should pick his brain. He's a good mentor.
Well, we'll make space and time and room for that. You all, should you honor me with any request or information to be passed on, I'm happy to do it. I'm not a believer that we did it the best. When we were at your age, trying to build and experience what it is to live a freer life and a more just life. And the generation before us, God knows, they will self-admit that they dropped the ball for a lot. But just as new organizers came on from the phone tree and said to the elders, we have emails now. We can send emails. But that's not the same than going and phone treeing them and calling them. You don't, get the same touch point. Well, you know what? The generation doesn't require that right now. They require something different. So there's value to it. And I just want you to know, I hope you never think of yourselves as not being relevant or seen or heard, because almost in every space I've been in, it's almost been from the mouth of babes, the youth of the space that get us really most uncomfortable in those rooms, because they hearken us to a place where we had the freedom to imagine and reimagine. And I think what you all remind us of is, as we get older, some of that gets lost when you get beat down repetitively by a system that says, regardless of what you do, this is unshakable. Like a tree planted by the water, it won't be moved. And you all remind us that, man, that spark is still there. And you just relit it again for me. Right. And in many ways, this conversation has relit it again for me, that we've got to do better than top down. We're all equal, and all of us are, swimming backwards upstream with the weight of the world flowing down. And we can't survive this alone. So I'm looking forward to the partnership.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we should do this on the regular. I don't know how my co-hosts feel about it, but I do think it's important, right? I think we should have younger voices here regularly.
And older.
Even if it's right. Because even if it's something that we said when you all weren't here, and you hear it and you're like, I don't like what Tiffany said, or I didn't agree with what Andrew said, or I got a challenge with what Angela said. Like, I think because we've been so intentional about saying welcome home, because this is your home too. I mean, we would love to have you guys back, other young folks. And I quite frankly would like to hear from young people who are some of the people I know who are like, yeah, I'm not really doing any activism, you know, and no, I'm apathetic and I'm not really into it. And because they too deserve a voice. Yeah. And I think we have to stop attaching value to people based on if you voted or based on if you are organizing. You know, it's like, no, like your pain, your apathy, your tiredness, all of that matters too. And in our community, we're not transactional. We love you just because you exist, just because you're ours and we're yours. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand thinking that I'm addressing you and assessing you by what you're giving to community. I hope that we encourage people to. And I definitely agree with you about the nails and the lashes, because I'm not going to lie. If somebody was coming to interview with me and they had nails and lashes, and I would have an opinion about it. You know, I would think what my opinion would be. Well,
he said,
Andrew, you want a fist fight on this podcast?
No,
they definitely
same girl
I
met back fresh out of college.
Let's let Victoria.
He said, "What? Can I just hear Andrew's info first? I just want to know if I should let it go or keep going."
Fresh out of college. All right.
Oh my God. Let's let Victoria and Ty close us out with your party remarks, y'all. Go ahead.
And they might have CTAs.
Oh yeah, we do. You're right.
Y'all might have calls to action.
Yeah, we could do that too. You want to do calls to action now and just have them do their closing in the calls to action?
Yeah, let's do it.
Mine.
Well, you know, first I do want to, one, Tiffany, I want to say that I love me some long nails and long hair. And I actually just had a conversation with my mom, Miss Mary Pinnell, just had a conversation with my mom literally yesterday. And she was like, well, I would look at you funny too if you came with your long, and we go back and forth all the time. She says we should have our own podcast because we literally talk about this all the time.
Your mom is welcome to come.
Okay. But I will say, one, I am a firm believer in giving people their flowers while they're here and while they're in front of you. And so I do want to say, one, I'm thankful to all of you for creating a space for young people, because oftentimes we do not have that space. We have to create it for ourselves. And so, one, I'm grateful. And then two, I also think, you know, when people think of mentorship, I think people think it means you have to, you know, do the most for someone. And I think you should. I think mentors should always do the most for their mentees. However, sometimes doing the most looks like speaking life into someone, and you don't know what that can do. And I just wanted to say, you know, to Angela too, thank you, because you called me yesterday, or was it the day before? I don't remember, but I don't even think you realize what you did for me by speaking life into me. And that means so much. And I'm trying not to cry, y'all. I'm emotional, but that's so important because a lot of these young people need someone to speak life into them. Our young Black men, our young Black women. I mean, all we see on television is how we're not enough. All we see on television is how we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing and how we're not showing up. And so sometimes that what we need is just someone to speak life into us, to tell us that we're great, to tell us that we're gifted, we're talented. In any way that we show up, we're worthy of being in this space. And that's so important. Angela, you did that for me a couple of days ago. Tamika, my mentor, does that for me all the time. And and pushes me into spaces, you know, like pushes me and opens doors that I wouldn't be able to open for myself. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think a lot of other young people would be grateful to have mentors like that who do that for them. But just, you know, I think my call to action for young people is don't be afraid to listen. You know, I have such respect for my elders. I'm actually working on a project called A Love Letter to Harlem, and I plan on going home and interviewing all of my elders and Native folks to Harlem, and just hearing their thoughts about their history and the things that they've lived through and lived experiences. We cannot be afraid to sometimes just open our ears and listen, because y'all, we can be hard-headed, and I know that because I'm hard-headed. And so sometimes you just have to listen, because you never know what you can hear, you never know what you learn, and that is how you create greatness. And so that is my call to action. And then my call to action for the older generation is to take us under your wing. You know, if we ain't doing it right, show us, but also be open to us showing you how we've now learned to do things, because it looks different. You know, listen to us and don't dismiss us.
Love the
I love
invitation.
it.
It's beautiful.
Okay, Ty.
In the khaki suit, in the tan suit, in his Obama suit.
And that Obama thing, I'm telling you, it's springtime for
When a scandal was a scandal.
So, but I just want to say thank you guys. I mean, to echo some of Victoria's sentiments, you know, you guys are, each and every one of you, thought leaders, folks who I've received sound bites from and just, you know, started conversations with my folks, trying to get that dialogue started, trying to grow the table that we're talking about growing. So just appreciate you guys for availing this space, for, you know, letting us, letting us pop it on here real quick. I definitely appreciate that. Definitely gonna take y'all up on diversifying those voices too, because I got to the point of even this judgment that we had around the nails or whatever. I got some folks that if my aunties and them saw them, oh, that's a YN or that's a whatever, but like these are the same folks that's gonna quote Socrates from behind that ski mask. You feel what I'm saying? They got a lot of intellectual depth that you don't see at face value. And I mean, even me, a lot of what I do is built to sort of disarm the fact that you don't have to show up in a particular way, right? Like I graduated from high school when I was 13 years old. I got my bachelor's degree at 15. I got my master's at 17. And everywhere that I go for a speech, I try to wear a hoodie. I try to wear the foam posits. I try to wear the Jordans because we don't need to equate success with the tan suit. I can show up in that hoodie and still have the same intellectual talking points. And so that's just the you know what I'm saying, my closing remarks there. As far as a call to action, I think the big thing for me here is that we have to start clinging to a new narrative about our folks. All of us. That's an intergenerational thing. We have to choose different narratives that we want to empower about our people. Clinging to narratives of disempowerment is a disservice to our ancestors who did the fighting to get us here. We can talk about crabs in the barrels and excuse for why crime looks the way it does in some of our cities and this and that. But if we can own that generational trauma and all of its effects, we also have to own the generational bravery that got us here, right? We also have to understand that we're the descendants of folks who read by candlelight, knowing that death was on the other side of it if it got caught. Like, we are the descendants of those who created secret networks to get us to freedom. We come from that. We have to honor that by living it. So that's my call to Black people in general. And then I have a call to the faith community, because Marley said something that really hit. And it was about growing the table, how she as a queer person felt disenfranchised. I have a little sister that's gay. I don't have to subscribe to her lifestyle or fully understand it to know that I love her and to know that I respect her existence. And if the Black church really wants to heal our community, it has to start by making sure that nobody is walking away thinking that they're hated by the very God that we're saying created them. It's not compromise, it's compassion. It's not watering down the word, because I grew up in church. It's walking it out the way that we said Christ did, with open arms and with an open heart. Another thing about faith, too, is that faith sometimes puts us in a lull. Like there was just this viral clip going on about some pastor somewhere, Black men need to obey the police. And there's a whole nother episode we can get into about what that is, right? But like for so long, faith has been used as a point of strength, but in many ways it's a point of weakness. And it's important for us to remember that faith without works is dead. Like going to the book of James, like I said, my dad got that master's of divinity. Great grandpa before him, you know what I'm saying? We are rooted in this church thing. I live that. It's a blueprint for how I move in the world. But faith has to be paired with action. Like believing in God should compel us to do the things that we believe God would want us to do. Faith is the engine and work has to be the wheels. So if we believe in a God of justice, why are we not fighting for justice?
Come on.
If we believe that we're made in the image of a creator, why are we not fighting to create new things? Like to honor God fully, we have to show up and live out what we think God is, who we think God is. Stop telling me about the God that inspired Jesus to turn the other cheek. Let's start talking more contemporarily relevant about the Jesus who flipped the table when governance was not serving the people, when it was unjust. Let's start having conversations that are tethered to where we need to be, right? Because faith can free us or it can lock us away. And it is up to our faith leaders, to our community pillars to decide what that will be for us moving forward. We've seen what it can be. Like I said, we've seen it as an anchor of movements. So if we want it to be something more, that is a conscious choice that our faith leaders are going to have to make in concert with community leaders. Go find that YN that maybe you don't value otherwise. Figure out what it takes to get him and his folks as members of your congregation. We have to grow the table. But in order to grow the table, we have to truly be committed to the idea that everybody deserves a seat there. That's it. That's all.
I love that.
Usher
Thank
board
you,
number
somebody.
one coming
Pass the
around
collection
for the
plate.
collection.
Yes.
The doors
That's
of the
excellent.
church are now open.
From both of you.
I'll be
all three of you.
quick, Angela, because I have a feeling I might know what Angela's CTA is. So I'll be really quick, and I'm pulling my CTA from the luminary Nicole Hannah-Jones, who posted this, and I thought it was so poignant for our times. And she said, "Folks, there is only so much you can learn from social media. There's only so much social media can teach you. Now is the time for reading." So my CTA is read something. Read something this week. It could be a think piece, but read a book. read a book. And if you are reading something good, a lot of people were in the comments asking me, what was the book you referenced? It was the Poisonwood Bible. If you are reading something good and think I need to read it, holler at me, drop me a comment, let me know what's on your list of reading. That's my only CTA.
Tiffany, real quick, just as a shameless plug, Tiffany, you just said that I actually have a book coming out. My birthday is June 17th. I turned 30 then. The book is coming out June 18th. The book is going to be called The Fire Right Now. It's going to be an homage to James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, which is really just a social commentary about now. I would love to get you guys copies. So I'm gonna, as soon as we get off of this, I'm going to send y'all the manuscript.
Please.
Would love to have you guys read over it. But yeah, that's it for something to read.
Yes. Well, I'm buying my book.
Congratulations. That's amazing. And I can't wait to read it.
Sorry, what publisher are you on?
So I'm just going to independently publish it right now. I know I'm putting it on Amazon.
Nah, man, give me that. Don't do that. Give me that. No, don't do that. Give me the manuscript. I got I got 2 imprints I want to send that to.
Let's talk.
Victoria, connect us.
Before you self-publish.
Do not self-publish. It's too hard. In our humble opinion. Let's do Victoria, connect us, and I'm going to get him to...
Thank you.
I'm going to get him to Leonard. Tiff is really the expert. I got a book manuscript that's sitting in my backpack for 3 months. That's another story. But Leonard has an imprint, and so does Ibram Kendi. So let's get that to both of them at least. My call to action. Before I do that, there's something that's just on my heart. Yesterday, Chloe, who does a lot of our social media with Ange, Chloe's been running point on social media and comm strategy for State of the People in tandem with it's about 25 committee members. But Chloe has been drowning in the amount of graphics, right? There's a number of people supporting. But I was like, Chloe, do a crash course. Some of these people are good, but that you need to get them to your level, or they just might want to sharpen tactics. You know, things change so quickly. And Chloe did a crash course yesterday. 15 young people showed up. Me and Vince, Andrew, crashed it. And I missed most of it because we were onboarding the LA leads for the State of the People Power Tour. On the end of the call, I got so emotional because I was thinking about Chloe being in the professional development program where Andrew and Tiff have also participated. It's our opportunity to train young people in several areas: public policy, podcasting, media, and other areas. And PR. We mentor them. We give them the tools. There are gurus that participate in that program. Chloe has been in that program now since last February. And it's by choice. It's not by force every semester. But Chloe, when she started, was very shy, very reserved. In the process, lost her father and wanted to keep working. Around Marilyn Mosby's petition in particular, she dove in, was doing a ton of work. And on this particular project with State of the People, I've seen a different side of Chloe. A clear communicator, a confident soul, beautiful, gracious, patient soul. And I'm seeing a tremendous leader, And she led this graphics course yesterday, and I missed most of it. But at the end, I just felt so much pride. And I'm about to cry again now, because to me, that's what this movement is about. You all coming on here, that is what this is about. When we go into these 10 cities, that is the type of community coalescing that has to happen for our survival right now. And so I just would ask, whatever your gift is, whatever you put your hand to do, whatever your brain moves you to do, whatever gifting you have, come and be a part of this broader community that we're building. When we go into cities on the ground, starting in Atlanta on April 26th, be a part. No gift is too small, no gift is too large. Ty, we need you on the stage. I'm gonna talk to Victoria about that too. You are a necessary part of this. And to Tiff's point earlier, she knows I'm gonna say it. We do need more young people involved. We want to get this right. We need our elders involved. I don't want to brush over any we need our veterans involved. We are engaging all parts of the Black population on the Black papers, right? Sharing policy ideas. We have Black papers dropping every single week. We need y'all's experience and intelligence and brilliance there. It is State of the PPL, like literally, because y'all know it's too many domains now. So stateoftheppl.com. I implore you to sign up. Native Land Pod we're figuring out right now which tour stops we can go by to broadcast from. You guys, we need you. We need you. We need you. This conversation was amazing. And we extend the rest of y'all. Please send in your comments, your videos. You know you are welcome home. Ty, Victoria, welcome home. You can come back anytime. And so can Marley. We hate Marley had to drop. But thank you so much.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate
How
it.
many days to midterms?
As always, we want to remind everyone to leave us a review and subscribe to Native Land Pod. We're available on all platforms and YouTube. New episodes drop every Thursday and Friday with solo pods Monday and Tuesday. If you want more, check out Spolitics and Off the Cup, the other shows on Reason Choice Media. And don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our text, our email list, our website, nativelandpod.com. I'm Andrew Gillum. They are Angela Rye and Tiffany Cross. Welcome home, y'all. There are just 565 days until the midterm elections.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.